Alright, welcome. Today we're going to be taking apart this Dell XPS 157590. And to begin, we're going to need a Torx T5 and a small Phillips bit. I'm going to use a 2.5 to remove the bottom case, and then it should be just Phillips screws the rest of the way through, if this is like the other XPSs. And just keep in mind, we're going to leave the display assembly complete, but we're going to tear down the main chassis. And we'll probably be leaving the touchpad and keyboard complete, but we'll definitely be able to see if those are removable or not. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get all of these perimeter Torx screws and then flip up the cover and get the two Phillips head screws. Alright, once you get those screws out, we'll just put a little bit of upward pressure near the hinge here. And just use your fingers to finish popping that bottom case up and off. Alright, so taking a quick look here, RAM is easily upgradable. SSD as well, Wi-Fi card, battery, fan and heatsink assembly, all really easy to get to, which is definitely good for a laptop. So the first thing we're going to do is remove these battery screws, and then we'll pull out that battery connector and remove the battery. Alright, once you get those battery screws out, I'll just pull back on that battery a little bit, give a little bit more space here for the connector, and just get your fingernails on the connector and just wiggle it back and forth until it comes out. And you can remove the battery. And for the RAM, we'll just spread those little retainers and pull that stick out. Right, next we will do the SSD. Just remove the one screw, and you can pull it out of the slot. This is an NVMe 2280 sized SSD. Okay, remove the Wi-Fi screw with the bracket and disconnect those antenna cables and remove the Wi-Fi card. Okay, so looking at the display assembly, it looks like it's actually really easy to remove, so we're going to do that before we remove the motherboard. So what we need to do is disconnect all of the cables that are coming from the display assembly, which is usually the video cable, Wi-Fi antennas, and then if it has one, the separate webcam cable. So for this type of connector, we'll just pull straight up, and then we'll kind of free the cable there from the fan assembly clips. Okay, so we got the display cable free and the Wi-Fi antennas free. So I'm going to go ahead and just remove 2 screws from each side. Leave one screw in for now, and then we will open up the display assembly so that it's in the position it needs to be to separate from the palm rest. So we will gently open that up. And so all I have left is one screw on each side. So you're going to want to support the assembly from underneath when you remove those last 2 screws. Alright, and then we'll gently wiggle those hinges free from the palm rest. And there we have our complete display assembly. Alright, so it looks like the next thing we need to do now is to remove the motherboard. So we're gonna go ahead and just detach everything that's still stuck to it, which means the DC jack and the fan and heatsink assembly. So DC jack is just the one screw, and wiggle that connector out with your fingernails, and then you can remove that DC jack. Okay, so now I'm going to get all of these heatsink and fan screws. It doesn't matter which order you take these off, but when you put them back on, you want to tighten them down in the order that's stamped on that heatsink. Alright, so it feels like we've got the screws removed that we need to remove, and we're just going to give it kind of a gentle wiggle. I do see a tiny connector over here that I missed, but that looks like it's on the audio board on the bottom, which looks like it's still attached. So we're going to get this tiny little connector with our fingernails. Pop it out. So I do believe the audio board is it's connected to the bottom of the motherboard just with a push-in type connector, but I think it's held on with a screw, so you'll probably have to disconnect that audio board connector. And we'll gently wiggle the motherboard free, slowly turn it over, make sure there's no more ribbons, and then for that board, it's just a couple more Phillips screws, so just remove those screws and it'll pop straight up and off. We're going to leave it in place on this one. Okay, so we got an interface board. It does look like the keyboard is replaceable with some smaller Phillips screws. It looks like about a 1.5. And then the touchpad just has screws up here at the top underneath this plastic. So 1, 2, 3, so either 3 or 4 screws up here to remove the touchpad. Speakers, just a couple screws to remove those, and yeah, that looks about it. We do have a power button, so I can go ahead and remove that power button. Alright, so I'll remove the screws for the little power button cover, and then looks like they have used a slightly smaller fastener there, so we are going to switch to a 1.5 to finish taking out that power button. Alright, and once you get all those screws out, and of course you can remove the power button. Alright, so that is it. That is how you take apart a Dell XPS 157590. If this video helped you or you found it informative, please like and subscribe. Thank you.